When we're talking about UAPs and NHIs have been in the news, and what's the first thing that you think of when you think Mothership? Is aliens.
An alien mothership, right?
It's just totally plausible that an alien ship is sending out miniature drones to survey.
Of course.
Right? Many of these sightings are very different. They're not all the same. There are very different shapes of these crafts. There's very different sounds being reported. There's different speeds. There's different flight patterns. There's different times of day, and there's different areas
different
that they're going
sizes.
into. The governor of New Jersey doesn't have the balls to go during what is a state emergency to a meeting with all of the other mayors and assemblymen and state senators. The reason they can't talk about it is because how'd they get all that money to build those things?
Exactly.
How'd they get the technology to build some of these things? Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whether you're tuning in across the nation or around the world. Hat tip to my boy George Norrie and his Art Bell. My name is Shane Squarg, here with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Phillips. And I'm toning my voice down just a little bit. My windows are open. It's a nice, cool breeze, and the kids are asleep. Mr. Phillips, welcome back to Cocktails and Conspiracies, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers. Congratulations to the New York Mets. Juan Soto is now New York Met. Hence, I had to wear the hat.
Oof. That was a stiff drink. I wasn't shivering at the idea of Juan Soto and baseball talk on a Cocktails and Conspiracies show.
I had to throw it out there.
Nevertheless, we decided to live stream this one, which is a little a rarity for us. So those that are tuning into the live stream are seeing this a little bit early. But the reason we're doing that is because we have kind of a pressing topic here. It will come out next week's episode. But it's the whole... I think we actually covered it in the episode that comes out tomorrow on our channel, which for everyone watching this will be last week.
Briefly.
Briefly. And we said, by the time you guys see this, because of our YouTube ban, it'll probably be irrelevant and it'll all be gone. Here we are 2 or 3 weeks later, I think 3 weeks later, and New Jersey has a major drone problem that's been plaguing the state. It's totally consumed social media. It's consumed the news. Mr. Phillips, were you expecting us to be talking about this tonight?
No, especially not when it first began, and especially when you say drone, right? Because, and I'm sure what a lot of people think is like, I have a drone. I bought it for my kid for Christmas 3 years ago. Like, it's, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about, like, play toys that you buy off Amazon. We're talking about, like, industrial or potentially even military-type drones.
Right.
So the case, if you will, has certainly escalated. The details have gotten more strange, but also murkier at the same point in time, and, and this is probably the most frustrating part. We really don't know much more today than we did 3 weeks ago. And that's largely part of why we're talking about it still.
Right. All we know is that it's more frequent now. It's happening more. They're all
it's
over
more
the place.
frequent. It's all over the state as opposed to being confined to one area. What county was it in? But they were dubbing it before. It was like New Jersey drones. They were dubbing it. It was a specific county in North Jersey. I don't remember.
I know it was like in Morris County, a little bit up north there.
That was it. It was Morris County. There was another Morris County drones.
Yeah. There's another county that was like pretty popular with it right now. Bergen County, I think, is.
But now it's popular. All over, dude.
It was funny because I was literally on a meeting earlier prior to us jumping on here doing this live stream, and we were kind of like bullshitting about that, and somebody kind of in jest, as we were getting ready for the meeting to start, said, "Don't you know a lot about UFOs?" I'm like, "Oh, I mean, I don't know if I know a lot about it, but I'm certainly interested in it. I do a lot of research on it." And one of the guys in the call, he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "If you want," he's like, "I could put my laptop out the window right now. You could see them." He's like, "They're hovering over my house right now." He's like, "It's the size of like a Chevy." Yeah, he's like, he's like, "It's been every night, all over the place." He said he can hear his though, which I thought was interesting.
Well, the reports are conflicting. Some people say they don't hear anything. Some people say it sounds like a jet engine. So it's, and you know what too, and I'm sure we'll talk deeper about this, but once, because it's almost stirred up into some kind of media frenzy, right? And now you're dealing with what sightings are true, what whack jobs are coming out of the woodwork, what people are confusing a drone for a small Cessna. So there are a lot of variables to it, and I'm sure there's a good percentage of these sightings that are probably not necessarily drones. but they are there, dude. They are there.
And that's what I was going to get at too. And that's kind of a great place to start, I think, with this whole journey. Again, it also kind of started about 3 weeks ago for New Jersey. And it actually, for us, started because I sent a message, maybe it was just a private chat or maybe it was one of our group chats, I don't really remember, saying that I'm almost positive I saw something flying around in the sky. And it was just like this, like, to me, it looked like almost like a white pill, for lack of a better description. And I was driving down the Garden State Parkway. For those outside of New Jersey, it's just it's a highway that connects all of New Jersey from one side to the other, from top to bottom. And I'm flying down, and I'm trying to, like, if I took my eyes off it, I would lose it because it was daylight, it was broad daylight, and it was just, it was really out there. Now, I've owned commercial drones, I guess consumer drones, for many, many years. I'm a big DJI Phantom 2 Vision Plus guy, had it when it first hit the market. What was that, probably 10, 12 years ago at this point. I sunk it in the ocean, bought a new one because I flew it when I was obliterated at 5 o'clock in the morning. But
that's the story we talked about.
That is the story we talked about. So you guys are going to hear that again in our next episode that comes out. But nevertheless, so I know the capabilities of these types of things. I know what to look for. And it wasn't that. It wasn't moving like that. It wasn't really moving much. It was kind of just sitting in an area over the parkway, maybe kind of going back and forth a little bit. But again, it was white against a blue sky and some white clouds. Couldn't really tell. And it didn't really move out of position. I kind of joked about it that it'd be a UFO because previously we were talking to a guy named Mike Mulligan, who is a former guest of the show here from one of our early episodes. Check it out on youtube.com/conspiracy realist or @conspiracy realist. Check out our channel, like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Viewed episodes.
One of our viewed episodes. So Mike gave us this story about his alien encounter. And more recently on Twitter, he started posting about talking to aliens and thinking that they're going to come and visit him. He kept going on and on about his Twitter feeds that this was happening. And this is how we got turned on to Mike to begin with, is that Mike would go on these rants and he said, nobody would listen to me. And we sat down with him. We talked to him. Fascinating. I think we both walked away, Tim, a little blown away.
Guy. Super sweet guy. Really amazing story.
And I mean, going into that, I think we could be honest here and say, like, probably a little skeptical that he might have been just making some things up. Fair to say?
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic story. So whenever you have a fantastic story like that, you gotta take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, whether it be him making it up or maybe misremembering something. I think Mike has all the best intentions in the world. He didn't come off as there was no malicious intent in his story. I don't think he was saying anything to intentionally deceive someone, but memories get foggy over time.
They do. And I think coming out of that story, because while he was talking about a lot of this stuff, we were, if you want to call it fact checking, I hate that phrase because it's been so watered down by the nonsense that's happened over the last couple of years. But we were kind of fact checking him along the way and just like identifying the areas he was talking about.
Landmarks.
Zooming on Google Maps, the landmarks. Yeah. And it was all very true. And so when we left that, we were very convinced. And so I bring that up only because in the midst of him posting all of this stuff, he sends me a message and says that, he's been posting to call for, these UFOs to come and show a sign, show that they're coming. He kept saying that they're going to come to DC. You can go back and check out his feed on Instagram, on Twitter, on X, and you can see it there. Of course, it could be coincidence, right? That's fine. And I said to Mike jokingly, I'm like, oh, well, send him up my way. I'd love to encounter him. I've never really had an encounter. And then right around that same time is this pill thing going on there. I just kind of laughed. I'm like, oh, Mike came through for me. He showed me my UFO. It's probably just some off-distant plane or, there's an Air Force base relatively close to me. So maybe something like that.
Wasn't it the following day after he had posted that on X, there was reports of lights being seen over was it the Capitol building?
That was all over DC. Yep. And there was reports there was some video over there. I guess it's up for debate whether or not that video is true or false or somewhere in between there. But it happened. And that's what started to, I don't know if get my attention. Again, coincidence here.
Sure.
A couple days later, though, I came home and I got out of my car. I don't even know where I was or what I was doing. I might have been dropping the kids off, picking them up from somewhere. And I came across another video. And this video, I'm sorry, not another video. I came across another sighting. I get out of my car and I see up in the sky these two what look like planes tailing very close to one another. The reason I say video is because I actually took a video of it. I'm going to try to bring that up for you real quick here. I just got to dig it up. See, this is what happens when I don't come into these meetings prepared. I can't just pull these things up on a dime, All
You're
right,
just not
here
that
we
good, what can I say?
go. I'm slacking off these days here. All right, so we're
Really,
going to
you're a
pause this guy
disappointment.
here. Huge disappointment here. All right, so we're big screen sharers here. We love them. I'm going to give you a little tab action right here to video. So this is what I'm seeing here. I don't think there's any audio in this. Even if there is, I'm just going to mute it anyway. So here's what you're saying. You're going to miss it. It's going to go very quick, but you can see those little white dots kind of traveling around there. I may even see if I can slow this down a little bit. Playback speed. Can we drop this down? Yeah, let's go half speed there. Okay, you see it right up there?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing it with my naked eye. There it is, right in the center of your screen there. There's the pill shape, right? Looks very much like an airplane, all things considered. I'm looking at it with my naked eye and I can see it, but when I'm trying to get it with my phone, this is zoomed in 2 times on my phone or whatnot.
Right.
I couldn't trace it, which is why I'm bouncing all over the place.
It's so hard.
It's very hard. Now, this is zoomed in. It looks like it probably could be an air shape. It is pill-shaped, but the wings aren't very discernible. So I'm just thinking, all right, probably just an airplane, not the end of the world. I've seen 100 of them. Except you travel back in this video a little bit more. Let's see if I can actually get it here on slow speed. I might just actually play it again from the beginning. Okay, so you see the one on the right there.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to do this at half speed again. All right, so we've got one right here. Now that travels right. That's just my camera moving. But then you're going to see it. Damn, I'm never going to be able to catch this clip. Okay, you see this little dot down here on the lower left?
Yeah, that was
very hard. I apologize for everyone watching this. There are 2. And, this is a tree, one tree that's in front of it. You can see it. From one side to the other is tree. And again, I'm scattering around. Here it is right there again. There it is. There's the second one.
Yep.
I don't know enough about aviation to say whether or not this is true, but it seems unusual that 2 planes would be flying that close to one another in our area, specifically. They certainly don't look like commercial airliners to me. But again, outside of it being some sort of a military thing or some sort of a drone, it's unusual to me that would be 2. We have an airport close to us. It's 30 miles away. That's not going in the direction of the airport either. So it just seems odd.
Usually when you usually see aircraft flying close to one another, to your point, it is generally military. And we have a lot of military bases in New Jersey.
We do.
Here's the big difference. I'm not in the military. I don't know many people that are, especially nobody in the Air Force. I've never seen military aircraft that are white like that. They're usually always a darker color. They're either black or a dark olive green or whatever it might be. So
and that's
to me, that's just a little odd.
That's what's odd to me, right? And that aligned really well to what I thought I saw on the Parkway, again, during the day.
Yeah.
Now, this is all, again, a couple of weeks ago. I could probably get the date on that for you guys here. This is November 22nd. So what is today? December 11th? Yeah, so 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago almost? Yeah, almost 3 weeks ago.
So that was a few days before Thanksgiving.
A few days before Thanksgiving. Yep. It was actually probably right there. A couple days after that, let me see what this date says on here. This is the 23rd. So the very next night, I come home. And this is about 5 o'clock. Now, this video does have some audio in it. I'm not going to play the audio for the sake of the people watching, just because it's probably annoying. I'm just going to share this video, and then we're going to get into discussion. I filmed this. I get out of my car, and I see this. Now, this is not the moon. I can assure you of that. Mm-hmm. And, again, I think you all can see my cursor. There's this big, bright light in the sun, or in the sky right there. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's not a lot. You can't see any stars out at this point, right? Not much else going on there. I zoom out to show you these little bouncing lights right here. Those are just some reflections from my porch lights that are just bouncing off the camera screen. But you can see this doesn't move. Zooming in, zooming out, you can see that's just a reflection off that. Doesn't look like it's reflecting off anything. It's not like a street light or anything like that. It's very much high up in the sky. I'm zooming in. It's circular. Stays like that, does not move. I ended up seeing this a couple nights later. I never actually recorded it. It was in a different position than where it is right now, but similar to that area. The very next night, so in a matter of 3 days now, Phillips, or I guess within a week, 3 different instances, 3 different types of sightings. Don't know what to think of it.
So I want to go back to, before we move on, I want to talk about that last one that you just showed. Mm-hmm. Based upon, because I know where you live, I've been to your house a million times.
Yep.
I think were you looking west?
Never eat soggy waffles. Yeah, that's probably west. Yep.
Okay. So
South.
What I find interesting about that is that 2 nights in a row, this was probably last night and the night prior, I saw the exact same thing.
Okay.
And the first night that I saw that, and what I found, what was interesting to me was that it was very foggy, very cloudy. You couldn't see any other stars. You couldn't see anything, right? If you look all around the night sky, you could barely see the moon, but I was able to see that. Now, I tossed it up to, and it was very low on the horizon,
Right.
and so it just didn't look like a star to me.
Right.
And I tossed it up to maybe it's a planet, because I do know that sometimes you can see some planets. And I even thought about, I know there's an app you can download on the phone, and it's actually really cool. I've used it in the past. You might have done it as well. You can actually hold your phone, right? It uses your camera.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
it'll tell you what things are. So I thought about doing that, and I probably should have. But I just kind of threw it away as, it's probably just a planet.
Right.
But I find it really interesting that you saw the same thing, and it stood out to you. So it wasn't just me that it stood out to, which was kind of cool.
Right. And that's very intriguing to me. And it again, the most recent time I saw it was maybe a week again, a similar type of thing in a different area. I think it could be a planet. When I posted that video initially, somebody said that they thought it could have been Venus, just on where it should have been in the sky. I thought it might be more consistent, though. When I saw that, I'm like, all right, duh, I'm an idiot. Fun. It's fun to speculate. Again, this is 3 weeks ago. So this is really before this whole UAP drone thing starts exploding. My initial thought is, all right, idiotic. I should have gotten that telescope that I wanted to buy my kids for Christmas. I should have just bought one and opened it up myself. Looked at it. Didn't do that, obviously. But then it's gone. And then it's gone for probably about a week and a half, or at least I don't see it in that general vicinity until maybe pretty recently. Again, within the last week, I saw it up kind of angled a little bit differently over my house. So I'm not ruling out the fact that it is Venus or any planet at all. And I think that goes back to the point you brought up before, is that as these sightings start to happen more and more, all of a sudden, everything people see in the sky, they're calling in and they're saying, this is a UFO, this is a UAP.
It's reaching a fever pitch at this point.
Some of them are drones. Some of them are your standard drone. You can go on DJI.com, sponsor us if you guys want. We're happy to take it. I love your drones. You can go on Amazon, get those little chintzy ones. And some of them are really just airplanes. You know, people up north that live right next to Newark International Airport, there's hundreds of planes going out there a day. People are misjudging a lot of them. They want to be in on the hysteria. Nailed it. But not all of them.
No.
Some of them have felt a little strange, have they not?
Yeah. Also, I mean, just some of the stories that we're hearing, right? Like, I was listening to the radio the other day. Shout out to New Jersey 101.5. I'm officially an old man. I listen to talk radio all day while I'm...
Me too, baby.
No offense, NJ 101.5, but while I'm working, that's what I do. And so, and I think I actually brought this up in one of our group discussions.
Yeah.
So I'll retell the story, and I will preface this with, there's absolutely no way to validate this, at least not from my perspective. I can't validate this story at all. Take it for what it's worth, but I found it to be very interesting. And what I found interesting about it was that it was somebody on the coast, right? So Long Beach Island, Barrier Island in New Jersey, very popular island in New Jersey. This gentleman lives on that island, and he said that he saw a group of 7 to 8 of them off the coast. He took a laser pointer, which you should never do. I think it's actually illegal to point laser pointers at planes. I don't know if that's true.
I believe it is, yeah.
Apparently you're not
I
supposed
imagine
to do
it is,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and so he did do that, and it wound up coming closer and closer and closer until it was hovering maybe 60 to 100 feet above his house, and he said it was as big, if not bigger, than his pickup truck.
It's insanity.
So, dude, right? So that's wild. And so what I find remarkable about that is 2 things, right? If these drones really are that big, we're not dealing with recreational drones. We have to be dealing with something commercial, industrial, or potentially even military, and they're coming from the coast, right? I don't want to get too deep into things because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Last night, I believe it was just last night, there were reports of a law enforcement officer that captured body cam footage of 55 of these things. That's 2 5s, 5 and a 5. Put it together. 55 of these swarming off the coast, off of the coast of the Atlantic Ocean to Island Beach State Park, which is just north of Long Beach Island.
Yep.
And a group of them actually followed a Coast Guard boat.
Right.
Lending credence to them coming from off the shore, which I find to be very, very peculiar.
It's very interesting. That was verified today. New Jersey State Police held a meeting with local government officials. Our glorious Governor Phil Murphy decided that wasn't important, so he bailed and did not go. But effectively, yeah, surprise! He's not up for re-election anymore. He's ran his 2 terms, so he has
He held
no
a news
need
conference
to
every single day when
participate.
people had colds, but
Yeah, I better be careful, Tim. We can't afford another ban at this point. So yes, it coming out of that, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Our friends over on New Jersey held a conference yesterday for an hour and a half. Follow up today for about 30 minutes with some of the politicians, some of the local leaders that were there, and they effectively all said the same thing. Nothing happened. The New Jersey State Police have no idea what this is. It's not theirs. The FBI has no idea what this is. It's not theirs. The White House kind of confirmed the same thing. No idea what this is, but it's not theirs either. But they are confirming that these are, in fact, some sort of drone or, again, I'm going to keep pushing the term UAP because I don't know that I want to sell out that this is all man-made, and I don't want to sell out that it's the fact. I don't want to presume that it's aliens either, right? I'm not leaning either way here, but I think there's a little bit more to it. I think there might be multiple things going on. Maybe people piggyback on it a little bit. To your point with the commercial looking drones, you don't have to go far to find, like, again, go to DJI.com. I know there's plenty of drone companies out there. That's just one that I'm familiar with, but you can literally go right on their website and you can see specialized drones that they use for movie sets, drones that they're using for agriculture, drones that they're using for just like scanning terrains. And these aren't, again, your small handheld drones. These are bigger devices, but even the most big commercial drone that you can buy in the market is not going to be the size of like a mid-sized sedan. It's generally not that big. Not saying they don't exist, not that big. And those who have flown a drone handheld, you understand how difficult it is to kind of keep that thing in line, keep that thing straight. There's a reason that for so long you couldn't fly that thing in the house because it works off of wind, right? It's a quadcopter, most of those drones. It's 4 propellers spinning around and it's lifting it, and based on the propeller strength, it's pushing it back and forth. So if you if you fly it in house specifically, you're getting a lot of wind resistance bouncing off the walls, coming back, knocking the thing all over the place. It can't kind of position itself. I realize that drones have come a long way since, when I first bought mine 10 or 12 years ago. I get that. They're a lot more centered. The GPS is significantly better. I get it. But still, to fly multiple and any sort of a pattern or any close proximity of itself, these aren't hobbyists doing that. Generally not.
No.
Unless they've got a whole lot of money and a whole lot of experience doing this somewhere else. In all likelihood, they have to be somehow remote controlled. Like if you look at China, for example, and the laser light shows they do with the drones, or MetLife Stadium a year ago, they did laser light shows with drones. These are professional grade products. And again, they're small guys. These are small
These are
guys
small drones, right. Those are small ones. But these aren't these big giant drones that we're talking about here.
Exactly. So again, there's plenty of technology we're not even aware that the government has. Not to say that this is government or not. We're just speculating here, all for entertainment purposes too. Our friends over at YT. But it's highly inconceivable to me that somebody, a hobbyist particularly, will be able to go out, buy enough of these things, or even create their own that are that big, and then in some of these sightings where they've seen multiple of them, be able to manage multiple of them to not basically crash into each other in the air and hit the ground running.
Well, what rules out the whole hobbyist thing for me is the size of these drones. In order to fly one of those, you need a license from the FAA in order to operate them. Now, that's not to say that people don't break laws. People break laws all the time, right? Of course. Look, in theory, could it be? Sure, it can. Sure. It's highly, highly, highly unlikely.
So where does that leave us, I guess, is the next question.
Well, that's, as I said earlier, what's so frustrating about this is that we don't know much more today than we did 3 weeks ago when this whole thing first started, right? And so we're at the point now where we have local and state government investigating it. They actually called in the FBI. We have a federal bureau investigating it as well. And everybody is just throwing their hands up, essentially, and saying, we just don't know what it is. Okay? Right. We just don't know what it is. And so, and on the flip side, we don't know what it is, but there's no threat. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. Well, that's bullshit. You can't tell me that you don't know what it is, and that at the same point in time, oh, there's nothing to worry about.
Right.
Those two, that's oil and water. They don't mix. Okay. That's.
I'm
doesn't make
with you on
sense.
that, and that was one of the things when this started to take some wings underneath it, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And in one of our group chats where we talk a lot about conspiracy theories, we started to kind of speculate on this. And again, we were largely dismissing it at that particular point because it was still kind of silly and stupid. And what are the chances that this is actually real? But then it starts to pick up a little bit. And one of the first things we say is like, if it's the government, right, or if it's like military bases,
Sure.
like there's obviously a panic now. People are blowing up. They're calling up the police stations. They're dialing to the radio stations, posting all over social media. It's causing panic. If it was something we knew about, couldn't we just dismiss it and say, yeah, we know it's us. We're just trying something out. If we knew what it was and we were handling it, you can dismiss it and say, because of national security concerns, we can't really tell you what it is, but don't worry about it. We're on it. But it goes back to like that whole balloon thing that was flying over the United States, where they're just saying, oh, this is nothing. It's just a little weather balloon. You don't have to worry about anything here.
Yeah.
The lack of action is worse than just giving us kind of a half-ass action, because now you're letting people's minds run around and speculate.
Right.
That to me has become a little bit of a problem. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this was echoed by all these Congress people or state senators and local politicians that were mayors and assembly people. When they go to the New Jersey State Police today and they get these lack of answers, like they're coming back and telling their constituents, by the way, we just had this great meeting that we had to drive up to Trenton for, and they told us absolutely nothing. There's frustration there as well.
Speaking of the state police, did you hear about what they did with the helicopter?
They tailed it for a little while, if I recall correctly.
So
were tailing a UFO.
Exactly. So they sent up a helicopter.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And finish your thought, because I'm probably going to interrupt you and read your mind here a little bit.
Well, what I find odd about that is they then landed that helicopter for the safety of the personnel in the helicopter.
Bingo.
So you're going to tell me
Bingo.
that there are no credible threats,
Right.
and that we have nothing to worry about, yet the people that are sworn to protect us needed to be landed and couldn't continue to tail it for their safety.
Yep.
Smells a little fishy to me.
That smells very fishy there. And that's the kind of stuff that starts to piss people off, is because if you're saying that there's a threat here, this is the whole thing going back, and this is why I don't want to dismiss the idea of a UAP. UFO, whatever you prefer to call it, whatever your favorite term is. When we go back to those Tic Tac videos that just were released by the Navy, and we've got these pilots chasing these things around, that was one of the concerns. Like, they're pursuing this thing, and this thing is, completely outmaneuvering them, and then eventually, they bail off. But you now have a helicopter doing the same thing. If this was just some like mechanical drone that some kid is up there, you could take that thing out of the sky in a second and figure out what it is. Why aren't you? Even if it's like the size of a car, I realize that there could be a potential for collateral damage, but there are ways to take this thing down, or at least get close enough to it. It's maneuvering faster than you. It's maneuvering better than you. It's banking in some instances. It is hard to tell which videos are real and which videos are fake, because you get a lot of mishmash that pops up a lot of the times when these things have people pull up videos from all over the place and just tag New Jersey drones in it. But we do have some photos that were taken by a woman down here in Little Lake Harbor, which is kind of in our general area. I'm actually going to switch my headset, my earphone here a little bit here. Oh man, that feels so much nicer. A little nicer earphone. My other ones are dying there.
Unprepared.
Sorry, it's not going to let me switch that. It still wants me to use the other one. So I'm going to pull those up real quick. I know they've been kind of circulating on social media quite a bit here. It's worthwhile for us to show them too, for those who haven't seen them. So she takes these with, what is this? A 600 millimeter lens. I'm not a photographer, so, I don't know this from Adam, but
sounds fancy.
It sounds very fancy. It's this New Jersey drones group that's going on here. So these are the photos she's taken with this really fancy lens. It's Nancy O'Connell, again, out of Little Lake Harbor, which is very close to us, which for those not familiar with South Jersey is also very close to Long Beach Island, which is close to Island Beach State Park, where we've heard that these things are happening in Tim's stories here through 101.5. And yes, right. And the police officers being chased off of Island Beach State Park.
You know what
So
I
here's
did forget to add? It's
Yep.
some significance to that. I just want to sidebar
Sure.
this for one brief second.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure if you heard about this either, but the Coast Guard has joined the efforts to investigate on this.
I
Again,
did not hear that. No.
very odd.
Very
They're
odd.
coming off of the coast.
Yeah. That is very,
Well, I want to
very
stress
strange.
that. They're coming off of the coast.
Yeah. Well, let's hold that thought, Tim, because I want to come back to that because there was something that Jeff Van Drew said that I think is worth discussing.
Exactly. That's why
about
I'm
the
teeing
coast.
that up.
Okay. That's a good segue that we can use in just another minute or so.
But let's take a look at these pictures.
So we're taking a look at these pictures real quick. This is, again, highly zoomed in to which is taken with a really fancy camera. You can see all the metadata on the images right here that show, obviously, this is done. It's the Nikon camera right here. Some people are freaking out about Sony, but it's not a Sony camera. That's just the type of image that it is, so take it easy right there. But these are some of the images. These are hyper zoomed in images of what she's seeing. Very strange.
Dude, what
I don't know
is
what that's
that?
supposed to be. Yeah, it's like a ball of fire right here. Don't know what this is. And then there's this thing right here. Now, my interpretation of this, and here's another
Didn't
one.
we have
actually
more
right
from
here.
her? I was going to say we had more from her, didn't
Yeah,
we?
there's other ones that are around that other people are posting, and there's more in this group
Yeah.
that you could probably go through and find some stuff. But these were just the main pictures she had put up there. Now, what I'm seeing when I see this is not necessarily a ball of fire in so much as maybe something looping around really fast. Like, you're not like a big Marvel guy, are you?
Dude, come on. I watch baseball. That's it. I
In
watch baseball.
in a lot of the Marvel, and most recently the TV series Loki, there's basically this device that allows them to control time, right? And it's like the threads of time, and it's spinning around really fast. And or even when like Thor, you saw when Thor tries to get his hammer recreated, and he ends up creating something else instead. And he's got to kind of hold the sun open so he can get all the power. You know what I'm talking about, or am I completely lost on Infinity War?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea. Sounds cool.
In any case, once the sun gets powered, there's these like giant like metal, I don't know, rings around this like star. It's like a dying star. It's serving as a power source, and they're spinning around really fast, and that's how they harness the energy and put them there. That's sort of what this reminds me of, where it's like there's like a core, and then there's these maybe devices that are spinning around really fast, and maybe that's what you're capturing right there. Not necessarily that this is just a blob in space, just that you're hyper zoomed in on something that's spinning really, really quickly.
Yeah, you know what it does? It gives me the impression of that's what it looks like when something is illuminating and moving quickly, and you're just
Right.
capturing that kind of blur of light.
Right. You know what that actually kind of
Now-
looks like right there? You ever see the movie Predator?
Wow. Yeah. It actually
Looks
does
like the
kind of
Predator's
like
face right there. There you go.
It does kind of like
That's-
the Predator's
you
face.
figured out the Predators are coming.
That's it. We got it.
coming to
It's the
Earth,
Predator.
baby.
We're all fucked.
Boy. Maybe that's not a good thing for us.
Now, here's the thing, though, right? What I
myself
do
a little
find
bit.
odd about that, all right?
Yeah.
Now, there were other pictures that she had taken, and I think you might have flipped to one of them, and you could very clearly see a green light. You could see a green light and a red
Yes.
light, right? And generally, when you see normal aircraft, you see different colored blinking lights, right?
Yep.
And so that, though, when we see photos like that, right? You got a green. I can't speak tonight. Green light.
Green light. Yep.
It's a very difficult thing to say.
Very
And a
difficult to
red
say.
light. I look at that and I go, okay.
Yep.
It's an aircraft, right? And when I say aircraft, it could be a drone, right? Whatever it might be. Those other two photos, see that right there. That's one of the ones that actually
This is a
you-
different
you had shared.
photographer. This is a different
so this is a
photographer.
different photographer. Okay,
Yeah, this
got
is a
it.
300 millimeter camera. I thought it was the same one. And
Got it.
maybe they're just mixing and matching it, or maybe people edited it. I mean, you got Ashton Forbes in there saying it was fake. Maybe it is. Don't really know. But there
Yeah.
are similar photos in that Facebook group. That other photo that was in there, I'll just switch to that one real quick. This is the one you were talking about. This is a comment that somebody had left in there, which is extraordinarily similar to this.
To that,
This just
exactly.
looks like somebody maybe dumped it in Photoshop and started tweaking like the brightness and contrast to see what it is.
Right.
Versus this looks like it was probably the original. But there's what you're correct. There's those lights that are very similar to what you'd see on a standard aircraft.
Exactly. But point being, those other two photos that we looked at couldn't be more different from what we're looking at here. Could not be more different.
Exactly.
Very, very different.
And that's why I think it's important to distinguish that this is not the same from that woman photographer we're talking about, Nancy. This was just somebody that commented on the post with his own thing from Belmar, New Jersey, which again is not very far off from when we're talking about all the rest of this stuff. Again, very, very interesting.
Right.
And
especially
not,
when you're talking about air travel. I mean, all of these towns, and while it might be, let's just say it's even an hour. I mean, that's nothing when you're talking about something traveling in the air.
Yeah, maybe 30.
As the crow flies, as they say.
Yep. There you go. As the crow flies. All right,
as
so
the drone flies.
I'm going to bring us back to this other video, or this other, not video, this other image here. This is again from this guy Truth Poll on here. Here's some other images. Again, these look like they were kind of manipulated a little bit here, but nonetheless, you can kind of see that metallic shape a little bit. I don't know that there's just blob. I mean, this could just be something under a magnifying glass.
What the fuck I'm looking at there.
Right. In all likelihood, I think it's somebody just kind of cranking up the contrast. It's something else, but they are circulating around, which I find intriguing. That's been the problem with a lot of this stuff, though, is when one thing pops up, you get hundreds of other things that pop up, and people don't really know what to believe. But it's not the only thing that's popped up. There's videos that have been kind of going off for quite some time, and I'll pull up another one here that we can take a look at. This one allegedly happened over in Philadelphia. I feel like I might have seen this one previously somewhere along the lines, but you can kind of get an idea what that looks like there. You can see it again in this video right here. It's very faint, very hard to see because you got the blue background right there. I don't even know if I can make this any bigger, but you can kind of see it right there. You see that a little bit?
Maybe very, very barely
very vaguely. And then this guy's got one right here. Again, another perspective of the exact same thing.
The same color, though.
Thing.
They all
that's
the
it.
same color.
This is the same color. This looks like it's maybe earlier in the day or different perspective.
Right.
And this one looks like it's going into the water.
I was going to say, is that going to the water, dude?
That does go into the water.
Right, it very well could be.
Now, to fake that, you got to remember that that's faking the reflection as well, which is not very easy to do, especially when you're trying to run a grainy video like that.
Yeah, and you would know better than me.
It's not impossible. I'm not going to lie. It's certainly not impossible, but it's not as easy as you might think to get that reflection, especially like there's certain like the focus in and out. I mean, that's a lot of attention to detail to make something fake to try to spook some people on Twitter, you know?
Right.
It just doesn't seem worth it to me, but if you're grifting off of it and you're trying to make some dough, I guess it's worthwhile because you spook enough people, you get some hits on there.
Live in your mom's basement and you work at Walmart and, you know. No offense to Walmart workers. I don't know why I said that.
No,
by all means, make a living, baby. Make a living.
One of the other ones I wanted to bring up real quick, and then we're going to talk about our boy Van Drew, is this video right here. Let me pop this window open. X's bookmarks are annoying because I have to open them in a new tab everywhere. So this is a time-lapse video, which I thought was pretty interesting, of, so again, somewhere in New Jersey, not exactly sure where, but you can just see a lot of this movement throughout the night. And you can kind of see cars zipping by there. So, again, is it possible this was faked?
Weird.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, look, anything that we've discussed tonight in terms of evidence you and I don't have the ability to verify any of this stuff, right?
All these videos.
All these videos, right? So you and I take this with a grain of salt. Anybody listening or watching, you should also, we caution you to do the same thing.
Right.
What I find weird about that time lapse, right? And maybe it's just the video cutting off. I don't know. I don't think so because it appears to still be playing to me unless it's looped.
It's looped
and
right
edited.
Now, yeah.
What I find interesting about that is some of them just completely fade off and disappear in the middle of the frame. So it's not like they exit the frame. They just, you can't see them anymore.
They're just
so
kind
either
of
they're
traveling
traveling
out. Yeah.
Right. Either they're traveling too far away in terms of distance to be visible by the camera, or lights are turning off, or I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, it looks like they linked to the Facebook at one point and the person had deleted it. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. There's been so many videos and things that have popped up and cropped up. I mean, here's this Bedminster one. I don't know that I actually believe is even true. That was a really giant one. I'll show it for the sake of showing it. Oh, every time I click on it, it pops it out of the light.
While you're pulling that up, what I want to say is what's important about this, right? Other than obviously just, these drones, you could even call it harassing people in their homes, right? In some circumstances. We have a lot of high-value targets and a lot of military bases here in New Jersey, right? We've got the Picatinny Arsenal. We've got Joint Base, McGuire-Dix, Lakehurst. We have a lot. We have a Coast Guard station. We have a lot of high-value targets here in New Jersey. And so we also have Bedminster, right? Where President Trump, that's his home.
Right.
So it's a little concerning.
Oh yeah, but Trump's Bedminster golf course is right around here too. So when you look at this one, this is the one that people are talking about the most. These things look like cars moving around, and that's the
Yeah.
only reason that I think this is true. Because as I mentioned, if you're just joining us now, I know there's looks like over 60 people watching us on X right now. Go ahead and share this on
Hello.
your page. Give us a follow, like, subscribe. But if you're just tuning in now, one of the things I was talking about earlier is before we jumped on here tonight to record this, I was on the phone with somebody. I was in a meeting, Teams meeting, Microsoft Teams meeting, and a guy was sitting there. He's like, I could put my laptop out the screen right now and show my camera up in the sky. He's like, you could see those drones up there right now. He's like, they're the size of a car. He said, like, mid-sized Chevy is what he used specifically. And he's like, it's every day. It's every single night. He's like, I can hear him and I can see him every single night, no matter what. And so this is what he was describing. And that's largely what people in North Jersey have described. You've seen videos.
Where I was going to say, where is that person located? Was he in North Jersey?
He's in Basking Ridge area. Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
Long Valley. I can't remember. Confused a lot of these people, but North Jersey, Basking Ridge will
enough.
line to the Bergen County areas that are being
Right.
sighted as well. Long Valley is probably a little more out west, but nevertheless, man, I mean, yes, I get it. Some of these could be helicopters as well. I'm seeing these in the comments here on this particular person's post. We're not
Yeah.
saying that everything out there is actually something unexplainable. We're just saying that there are a lot of sightings, and having personally seen a few myself now, which I think I could probably dismiss and write off, but knowing a lot of people that are not really into this stuff, that are seeing
Yeah.
things and that are getting spooked and that are coming and asking, like quite literally saying like, hey, you're really into this stuff, right? What do you think about this? I don't know what to say to those people, because honestly, I think they're going to think I'm crazy if I told them what I really thought. But that's that's the rapport.
They're
So
going to think you're crazy or know it.
no, because Shane is always right. What do I have? .org.com. I think we've proved, Tim, over the last several years that a lot of the things that sounded crazy are coming true.
We certainly have.
I'm finding now, and maybe this is just sort of living in a soapbox here, but I'm finding now that when crazy shit starts to happen again or starts to crop up, people are asking our opinions on it, or at least for me, I can speak for myself. They're asking my opinion. They're asking what I think. What are my inside tracks on this? What do you know about X, Y, and Z? I get approached randomly standing at the bus stop asking about, different foods to eat and certain things to take. I actually can't say some of those words because they're banned words, but just completely out of the blue. I'm like, well, do I give off that aura that I'm your conspiracy guy to talk to? Maybe that's the case.
You know what it is? You look so similar to Bobby to Bobby Kennedy, that people just trust you with their health.
Well, yeah.
That's
what?
it.
If I took my shirt off, you'd see my ripped abs right
you're
now.
jacked, dude. You're jacked.
I'm wearing so many layers right now that it thickens me up a little bit. And the camera adds like 50 pounds. So I want to go back to kind of bringing this back to earth, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. We'll up for debate. Jeff Van Drew, congressman here in New Jersey, gets on Fox News today. And I'm not going to play the clip. I'm sure anybody that's into this has already seen it. It's a 1.5-minute clip anyway. But he kind of goes off about this whole thing and says that he thinks these drones are from Iran. He talks about there being a mothership, curious word to use, that's parked off the coast, the Atlantic, which is our ocean over here, for those not familiar with the East Coast of the United States. And they've been parked there for a little while, and now they're launching all these drones over into New Jersey. Of course, the White House comes out today and basically says, no, it's definitely not that.
They would never lie.
They would never lie. They've never lied to us.
Never lie. No, they're sharp as a tack over there. They would never lie.
Perfectly sound, and good health, and well with it. I will say though, as much as I don't trust what's said in the White House in these press briefings, I'm also not so convinced with Jeff Van Drew's claims either. And I like the guy. I think he's very smart. I think he's made a lot of good points about a lot of things over the years. But I find it hard to believe that there is any sort of a mothership, again, curious choice of words, from a country like Iran, which for all intents and purposes is not that technologically advanced, comparatively speaking. If you said China or Russia, all right, I'm on board, I'm listening. Iran sounds off to me, and it sounds a little bit more like you're just sort of pointing the finger for a reason. And you don't think our Navy would recognize some ship that's sitting that close to the coast that's firing off car-sized drones. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't care if it's a submarine or not. Like, they're just not adding up to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I take that as gaslighting people to be concerned with Iran. That's what I take that to be.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's a great way to put it.
Because Iran has always been portrayed by our media and our politicians as this force to be reckoned with, as one of the world's top funders of terrorism.
Yep.
That we always need to worry about. And while that is true, while they are one of the world's top funders of terrorism, and I don't mean to get off on a political statement here, but I think it's relevant, it's not terrorism to the West like they want us to believe, right? It's not the same type of terrorism that that has attacked us in the US or folks over in Europe. They fund Hezbollah, right? That's who they fund. So it's look, and that's not okay. I'll go ahead and make that statement. It is not okay to do that, but it's not the same type of threat that they want us to be concerned about here in the United States. And so that's why I look at that and I go, oh, they're just gaslighting us to be concerned about Iran, when realistically we have two giant fucking oceans on either side of us.
Yeah.
And Iran, compared to the United States, is a fucking joke. Technologically, militarily, they're no threat to us at all in the slightest bit. And
they
so
were
I look at that and I go,
4 years ago. They had no
broke
money.
Is a fucking joke, dude.
They had no
broke
money
is a
because of all the
joke.
sanctions that were on them. So it's not to say that they can't be getting technology from other people either, but to your point, it is unlikely, for sure.
Highly unlikely now, and I know I really stressed the whole from the coast thing, and part of it was to kind of have that conversation about what Jeff Andrew talked about and this whole Iranian mothership. And by the way, what the fuck is a drone mothership? Is there one giant drone just floating out there in the sky?
Well, you're using the word mothership, and that's what started, because that was not the first time it was used. It was used other areas by other people. And when we're talking about UAPs and NHIs have been in the news, and what's the first thing that you think of when you think mothership? Is aliens.
You think of an alien mothership, right? Independence Day, I was just going to say that. Exactly. Right. That's what you think of. You think of the mothership, right? And the doors open and it's sending out all those little fighters, and Will Smith's up there in a fucking F-16.
Yep. Yeah. Which is totally plausible that an alien ship is sending out miniature drones to survey,
of course.
Right? And, you can get into all these crazy theories that are out there about, it's been written. I see all the Q posts online and stuff. I don't really subscribe to any of that stuff either. But the word mothership is extraordinarily curious because, again, I don't think Iran has got a ship that's floating around up in space either that's dropping these things out. So it's got to be coming out of the ocean, which we established. But why choose the word mothership if it's coming out of the ocean?
I found that to be very, very, very interesting. And the reason why is the link between UAPs and submersibles, right? And what I don't know where the fuck you just went.
I have charged my earbud. My earbuds are dying here. I can't switch them for some reason. Thank you, Riverside.
What sightings, what we have learned about UAPs and their connections with the oceans and underwater, I just find that to be really, really fascinating that these things are potentially coming to us from off the coast. Right? Like, what does that say about it? To me, that just adds a whole nother quirk into the whole mystery of where this. And not only that, right? So if these things are coming off of the coast, where are they originating from? Right? Like, to me, that rules out almost everything else. The only thing that's still in play is military, right? Either something that's military or something that's unknown to us in terms of being mankind, man-made. If they're really coming from the coast, if that's actually where they're coming from.
And so it's partly frustrating because the episode that's literally going to drop tomorrow is our alien episode on our YouTube channel. Again, we're up to 83 live viewers here on X. If you guys don't follow us, please do. But we're dropping our episode tomorrow. We came out here to do a live stream only because this is so time sensitive. I may actually have to just pause that episode tomorrow and bump it, but it's important to the context here because a lot of what we talk about is that George Knapp series that just came out, an Investigation Alien, and we talk about the Manhattan Alien. But within that context, we talked about, or at least I guess from that documentary, we talked about the possibility that these alien spacecrafts could be coming from underwater. And so adding to what you're saying, Tim, that starts to add up a little bit more. We just literally, I mean, maybe it's complete coincidence. Maybe we're just kind of opening our eyes. You know, so you get a red car, you see a lot of red cars on the road.
Right.
The fact that, there was just literally a documentary that speculated that. And then we started looking at all these other cases with kind of a new lens. And then all of a sudden now we have all these drones coming up all over the place, UAPs, and they're originating from the ocean. And again, scratching the idea that somebody drove their mothership ship over here and is launching these things off of a deck of a ship that somehow we can't find, that seems really, really, really odd.
Like, that's impossible, dude. Like, we gotta chalk that up to being bullshit.
I'm not going to say
right
impossible.
now.
Nothing is impossible. There's a lot of things we don't know, but it is improbable. It is improbable.
It's 99.999% improbable that a foreign adversary has a military ship so close to our shores that they're launching drones and we don't know about it.
It seems very, very unlikely. And maybe we're masking us from it. That's always a possibility too.
Right, exactly.
I was
going to bring that up earlier, right? And so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So part of the frustration is all of the authorities, local, state, federal, nobody knows anything, right? Mm-hmm. So what just happened in the news very recently? We just had the CEO of a major healthcare company in the U.S. murdered, right? Mm-hmm. And it happened right in New York City, right? The most populated city in America. And in the very beginning, they knew nothing. They didn't know anything about the guy. And there was a bit of frustration of like, how could this happen in broad daylight in the middle of the biggest, most populated city in America and nobody has a fucking clue about anything? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not necessarily the case, right? They do know some things, but they're not going to release that information to the general public I really can't fucking speak tonight. I swear to God, this is the only bourbon I've had.
I don't know, man. He's taking that cocktails a little too serious. Cocktails and conspiracies. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi-yo. So they're not going to release that information to the general public when there's an ongoing investigation, because when you, the culprit, are listening and watching, they don't want you to know what they know. So what could be, and I say that about that case, because that could very well be going on right now today with this whole drone/UAP thing. The FBI, local state government might know what's going on, but they're not releasing that information because they don't want whomever is at the bottom of this to know that they know, while they do whatever they got to do to solve it.
You know, I've thought about that one a lot too, and I know that that's a prevailing theory, and people in intelligence communities will tell you, well, that's the case. I got to call bullshit on that, though, because you don't have this problem for 3 weeks that's infiltrating you for that long and you do absolutely nothing about it. If you do know who that is, what leg up are you giving whatever other foreign adversary this might be to allow this to continue happening? You're effectively letting them survey it. You can put yourself in position. I mean, we know people that are in the military, and we've seen things through historical documents and things that have been filed from over. They can mobilize within seconds, within minutes, and be where they need to be. There are people out there. I mean, you see things on Facebook or on X every single day, Facebook every single day about submarine emerges, blah blah blah. Here, there's new, and we've talked to people that are in the military, that are in intelligence, that have been on these ships, and they say that stuff happens literally every single day. You just don't know about it. We have ships everywhere in the world. We have planes everywhere in the world. We have people everywhere in the world. Right. If somebody is literally here launching this stuff, they're not doing it from overseas. These drones, on average, have an hour time limit. Let's say you've got a better drone with a better battery and it's got a 5-hour time limit. It still ain't getting you across the Atlantic Ocean to the other side of the world. In any case, so they've got
especially not to fly around New Jersey and survey it. You literally get here and go, oh fuck, I gotta land.
Right. And so you're telling me that you can't, A, track this thing back to where it's going, number one. I guess that was the point of A. Or B, find out where that sumbitch is with all of the technology that we have here. We can take pictures of star systems that are billions of miles away, and we can't see what's floating around in the ocean on a big giant ship. That's why I don't necessarily buy that, and I don't think they actually know what's going on, because they would have acted, and it wouldn't be getting worse. The weather balloon was interesting. It flew across the United States, was what it was. It was a balloon. Now we've got hundreds of sightings that are happening almost every night. That seems strange. It seems really odd, and it seems like if that was a threat that we know how to handle, we'd put it down. And so,
you know what was funny?
Yeah,
I'm dead.
No,
I was thinking about the whole weather balloon. This is a very stupid thing to say. It's not going to be very funny.
There's no
But I
stupid
was
things to
thinking,
say, Philip.
I
Only
was
stupid
thinking
people.
about the whole Chinese spy balloon today, actually, when I was thinking about this, and I just thought to myself, like, yo, that's the best you could do is a fucking balloon, China. Like that.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah.
really that was it. That's what you
Right.
did, a
Right.
balloon. And but conversely, that also made me think like. I don't know, man. Like, that kind of just seems like bullshit to me. Like, you're going to tell me that that balloon was a Chinese spy? Like, that's all they can do is send a balloon up? If they want to spy on us? I don't know, man. I'm not buying that. That's an episode for another day.
I don't even know how we even do a full episode on that. I would be
I don't know.
flabbergasted to know what else that. I mean, that's just the dumbest excuse on the face of the planet. And I feel like, I mean, I don't even know if they fully admitted to that, but that was like the nice thing to just sort of pass it off as that's what it was to get people off their backs. Sometimes I just don't think they know what the hell's going on, and they'll just take the convenient answer. What I wanted to actually say, though, and you kind of gave me a nice segue here with the Chinese spy balloon, is today there was a guy arrested in California who was of Chinese descent for flying a drone, of course, over, or he was arrested at San Francisco International Airport for flying it over. I can't even speak. This is my only
Too
drink
many
so far.
cocktails over there.
Yeah, you know that gin and club soda always hits hard, and it's heavy on the Bombay today, very heavy. But they were flying it over the United States Space Force base on the Central Coast over there, so Brentwood area. I don't know if that's convenient or if that's
interesting.
Right. Like, it's just the timing seemed odd. And there was also a report of like one of the drones being shot down, and it was like kind of a consumer drone. And the picture was another DJI Phantom, which is the drone I had. You always see that picture everywhere. It's the same quadcopter, the little white quadcopter. And it's like, it's just convenient that all of a sudden these two things happen within the last couple of days. And I get the inclination that they're trying to just spin it. It's like, oh, just told you, this is just a bunch of kids that are just organizing this on a Facebook group like they did the Area 51 thing. I'm not subscribing to it, but I thought that was interesting. I'm also not ruling out that it is a foreign adversary and we're not admitting to it, but I don't know, man. I feel like there's too much going on. I don't know that they're here maliciously because nothing crazy's happened yet. And it seems like they're kind of just having fun with everybody. If that's... Like, if you're a spy drone and you're surveying an area, my inclination is there'd be a pattern involved, right? And
like
then
the grid pattern that you might work
like
in.
a grid pattern, right? Like, or some sort of like something predictable where you're covering an area. And it might not have to be like, it might not look that obvious. Maybe they're zigging back like this. It doesn't matter, but there's got to be some sort of something has to be consistent in it. Because if you're sending these things up, generally, drones aren't necessarily being, I know I'm going to get chewed out for saying this, but they're not being manned remotely. They're generally being programmed, and they're following a flight pattern to just scan out their territories, especially given the size of them. Now, again, we're talking about SUV size things, so could they be manned? Absolutely, and maybe this is what we're dealing with here. But if it's a foreign adversary, the likelihood of them being seated in one of these things, flying over here, is very small because you're really opening yourself up to a can of worms. So with that said, when you get the stories like where they're breaking off and now following the Island Beach State Park, I don't know if it was the park rangers or the police over there.
I think it would have been the state police.
So it was state police over there. So you get the story that them chasing these guys down. You get the story about people shining, and this has happened multiple times. Again, they're firsthand accounts. We don't know. Can't really take witnesses aren't always the most reliable things here. But assuming we're taking them at their words, you're getting people shining laser pointers at them or trying to engage with them, and they're breaking their pattern and they're maneuvering or they're changing direction. Could that be what their direction was always supposed to be? Of course. But whenever you see these things and they're breaking out of pattern, that to me tells me that there's intent behind that. Not intelligence necessarily, but there's intent in what's going on there. It's not just doing that accidentally.
Sure.
Drones are mini computers, right? Like they've got GPS
That's all they are,
in them.
right.
They've got that's literally all they are. They're
It's a
mini
flying
computers with
computer.
quite literally fans on the sides of them, depending on how they're made.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's something important to consider here too. Yes, it's totally plausible if there's somebody sitting with like an Xbox controller controlling this thing, zipping it around and having a blast and joyriding it. It seems highly unlikely that if it's a military intelligence operation that they're going to screw around with a bunch of civilians chasing them around and kind of making fun of it. Like, it just that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
You know what I just thought of?
Why would you jeopardize this multi-million-dollar machine to have fun with some guy running down the beach?
I couldn't agree more. You know what I just thought of? Excuse me there. Usually I mute myself when I'm going to cough. You own a drone.
I do.
If you fly your drone at night, are there lights on it?
Yes.
Like, can you see the... You can, okay.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
I don't know the drone.
I've done it in the fog. You could absolutely see it. And I've programmed my drone to fly out of my sight and have it come back. Of course, you have to set it. And my drone's older now, but the newer ones are much, much more sophisticated. But I can set a flight pattern, and I can set the flight pattern wherever I want. But it's a flight pattern. So even if I go box and then go zigzag all over the place, it's a pattern. It's going to come back. Now, it might not be a cylindrical, or it might not be like a perfect geometric pattern. I can make it do all wacky shit. But at the end, it's got to come home.
It's going to come back to you.
Right. And so
it can't break that pattern.
It's not gonna see somebody and say, "Whoa, I'm gonna go down to you."
Sure.
Now, if I'm controlling it, sure, and I can do whatever I want, and I can break off the pattern. But to control it, your phone is connecting to that, or whatever device you're using. Generally, it's your phone. You just download an app. It's connected with a Wi-Fi signal. A Wi-Fi signal ain't going that far. It's going up.
Yeah.
And that was actually when I talked earlier in the episode. I crashed my first DJI Phantom in the ocean. It's because I shot that sucker up. Well, number one, I didn't set the home GPS the right way. I was on the beach, and I thought I had a lot more battery than I did. Too much drink. Too many cocktails, not enough conspiracy. And I send this thing up, and so I'm not watching it on my phone. I've just got it programmed, and I'm just kind of shooting the controllers, and there's a radio signal from the control panel to the drone. So that's working fine. You can do that for, I don't know, maybe it was like a mile or something like that. It was pretty good distance on there. That's a radio signal, which can be interfered with. Not because it can't. It's the visualization, though. The camera to the phone, that's not transmitted via radio. That's transmitted by a wireless signal, a short wireless signal. And you lose that after a short period of time, which is why the camera is not recording on your phone. It's actually on a gimbal on the actual drone. It's all recording locally there, so that way when you lose signal, you've got it right back. So the reason I say that is, if you're seeing somebody and somebody's screwing around with you, you wouldn't go mess with them. Unless you've got line of sight on them, and maybe you're on the beach, you've got perfect line of sight. But if you're in like a residential neighborhood, there's no way you're going to see them and chase after them. You have no idea where they are.
Right.
To do it with any amount of accuracy, you'd have to be able to see.
If you were flying your drone and somebody shone a laser pointer at it, would you know that was occurring? Would you be able to see that on the camera on the drone?
If the camera was in my path and it hits the camera, yeah, of course.
It's got to hit the camera, though.
Well, it's got to be like within the sight line of the camera, of course. It's recording a camera. It's a camera. It's recording. It's like a GoPro. It's on the bottom of the thing. So as long as you can see the laser, I mean, the thing about the laser pointers too is if I go outside and shine it up there right now, and you're around the corner, you might even see my laser pointer getting shined up there. So you can have the general direction of where it's going. I'm not going to suggest that's not the case. But again, like, you're in the vicinity. If you're where you are right now, and I'm where I am right now, and I shine a laser pointer up, you ain't seeing that. So
no, it's not a shot now.
And even like, many blocks down, like, you're probably still not seeing that. If you're up the street, you'll probably see the thing. If I hit something that you can see, it's not like it's creating a full-length beam of light there. But when that beam hits something, you're going to see that. So that's why, to me, it just doesn't
make sense.
There's too many variables here that don't really add up to me. Just kind of summarizing that for those that are coming in, I know our live viewer counter is kind of climbing a little bit here. So whoever missed it, go back and watch it a little bit later. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I don't think I want to use the word friendliness, the playfulness. I don't think the playfulness of how these things are responding to people. And by that, I mean like the run and chase. That's playful. You don't do that with military equipment. Anybody that's in the military is going to tell you, they ain't doing that. You're going to get crucified if you try to do something like that with a military apparatus there. Is it plausible that it's private sector work?
Sure.
But here's the thing. Have a lot of those companies here.
Yeah, but if it is, we'd fucking know about it.
Well,
the FAA would know. Sector. The FBI would know.
Maybe not.
But you have to be registered with the FAA in order to fly these.
Not at some of these.
You should be legally.
Not at these, like some of these dark programs that they've got going on in the background right there.
Right, but again, but now we're treading towards the area of, I don't want to say necessarily malicious, but that sketchy area of like, what the fuck are you really doing?
Right.
Is it a roofing company that just wants to
Well, I'm not saying I'm not saying them. I'm saying like some of these
I know.
like the Boeings of
Like
the
a Boston
world.
Dynamics type thing,
Like a
or
Boston
right,
Dynamics.
exactly.
What's the one? There's an office in Tom's River too. I can't think of the name of it. Oh God, all these names are slipping my mind. If you guys are looking on Twitter, there's a
There's one in
chat
TR?
board. I don't know how it actually works. They had an office in Tom's River. Yeah.
Hot dog.
Let me just Google it real quick. We got the world at our fingertips right here. That's why we do these things like this. Defense contractors. Lockheed Martin. I believe we have one of them.
Oh, Lockheed Martin. Okay. I had no idea they had an office in Tom's River.
They did. I don't know if it's still there. But if it's like a company like this, like that would be the only caveat I would say to this man-made. Sure. Again, I'm not suggesting it's aliens, but if it's man-made and it's from here, and you've got these defense contractors that have these massive budgets, we already with the whole was it Doggy or Doji? I don't know. It's supposed to be Department of Government Efficiency here that Elon and Vivek are running. You know, one of the things they talk about is slashing all these budgets. So if you've been paying attention, you'll see how much money we're bleeding, and so. If you look at that and you see that all this money is missing, billions of dollars are missing in these defense budgets every single year, obviously they're going to these contractors that are building off the books technology. No doubt about it.
By the way, operate with complete immunity, right? So to your point, they don't need to fucking register with the FAA and have a license. They're going to do whatever they want.
That's where I'm getting at. And that's the only thing I could think of, because now what you're dealing with is not a military, but you're dealing with a bunch of like tech geeks, honestly. Like these are engineers, right. These are technologists, these are programmers that are like, you know, they're probably playing PUBG with us later tonight. Like they're gonna go and like they're gonna have their modded controllers and light us up.
Not tonight, it's down for maintenance, but you know.
Oh God! Well, then I don't feel so bad about it.
It's a Wednesday in the middle of the month.
That's true. Yeah, standard issue.
Yeah.
That'll be a good conspiracy topic for another day too. Why the hell would you put your maintenance in the middle of the night? Put it at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Nevertheless, that's where I can see it leaning heavily towards man-made. Is like you get one of these companies out there that are testing some new technology they're about to sell to the military, and they say, "Hey, yo," or a little razor remote. "Hey, yo, where's my toothpick?" They bring that out there and they're like, "Let me show you like a display of power here." And they just start sending these things around. And then you got somebody back there that is controlling them. He's like, "Watch, I'm gonna fuck with this guy," and he just starts zipping the drone at him, and he's flying around. He's having fun with it. That's the only thing I can
do that for 3 weeks. 3 weeks you have to do that for? Like,
government
for me,
moves slow. Maybe they
dude.
do it to get their attention first. You ever see Iron Man 1? I know you don't watch a lot of Marvel movies, but
I watch baseball and football, and I watch documentaries, and that's it. That is the extent of my TV watching.
There's got to be somebody out there that's watching this that has watched the Marvel movies, particularly Iron Man. Iron Man 1.
I watch Batman. That's the only kind of superhero movie I watch is Batman.
Batman's a good movie. So Iron Man's Batman with just better tech. He flies, right?
Don't you fucking say that about Batman, goddammit.
He's way better tech. Do you know who Tony Stark is if I talk about him?
Well, he is Iron Man, isn't he? That's his alter ego?
Perfect.
Or
yeah,
like
that's
his
catchphrase too.
That's his walking around name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have like a secret identity. He's out as Iron Man. That's why he's better.
This is how much I have no fucking idea about that world. But go ahead, I get your point.
So in Iron Man 1, the movie, I mean, the comics, you can go into this too. A lot of the same things happen, but we can dive into the comic lore too. But in the movie Iron Man, what happens is Tony Stark's weapon defense contractor, weapon manufacturer, goes, displays his weapons, ends up getting captured by a terrorist group, gets locked up in a cave. They want him to build what's called the Jericho missile, which is like a super missile. He's seeing while he's locked up there that all of his weapons are owned by these terrorists. So somebody's dealing them directly to the terrorists. And so he's making money on both sides of it, doesn't know. And anyway, he builds like this like shoddy Iron Man suit to get himself out of the cave, gets back to the United States, he's saved, blah, blah, blah. Realizes that his company has been double dipping, dealing to terrorists. So this is why he creates the Iron Man suit. There's context here. He decides, well, I'm going to make up for all these wrongs that have been happening with my company, my weapons. He's got guilt. That's the mission behind Iron Man. That's why he's so passionate about this. He builds that same thing he built in the cave. Now he builds the better version, which is what you get as Iron Man. So when he goes over to these other these terrorist cells and he starts wiping them out, well, this is like an international affair now, right? Because you've got somebody coming over here and cleaning out terrorists and nobody knows who it is. So he's flying back. And of course, like that's when the F-16s, like the Air Force starts coming out. They try to see this guy. They say, well, it's a guy that's flying. They try to take him out of the sky. Now, Iron Man's been flying around a couple times like this. So he grabs on the bottom of the planes. They look at it. and he calls his buddy. His name's James Rhodes. They call him Rhodey. And he's like, yeah. So he's like, you know that secret project I've been telling you about? He's like, yeah. He's like, you ready to talk about it? Yeah, I want to tell it, because Rhodey always knows that he's up to something, and he can just tell. He's like, I want to talk to you about it. He's like, well, no. What do you want to talk to me about? Because Rhodey knows that Tony is doing something. He's probably involved with this terrorist cell thing. And he's like, no, that's me in that suit. That's me in that suit. And so the moral of the story here, very, very big weave here, Mr. Phillips, is that
quite a weave.
Tony went out and he displayed his tech first.
Right.
And then he told his friends that were in the military about it. Now, he wasn't trying to sell it to them, but his mission for the entirety of the Marvel series was really, I want to build a suit of armor around the world. And that was the idea of building his drones, which is why he built the AI Ultron, which ended up turning on him and like caused all these other problems. But he was building it without anybody else's permission. He wanted to build it, he wanted to proof of concept, and then he'd deploy it. And so if you're a defense contractor and you've got hundreds of billions of dollars coming to you every single year or every however often, and you're building this stuff, you got to prove it first. And sometimes people ain't going to listen to you, and they ain't going to want to spend the money. You go out there and you have this big show of power, show display. Maybe that turns some heads. And maybe that guy that you're talking to the military that said, I don't want to give you that extra $10 billion. All of a sudden he picks up the phone. He's like, you name your price. I'm going to write that check today, because now we can do all this stuff. That's going to be my backup theory right there. If it's not aliens, Mr. Phillips, that Mike Mulligan, my friend out there, sent it to me, then that's it. That's the only thing to me that seems plausible.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's entirely plausible, and given what we're being told and subsequently not told right now, that's the only other theory that kind of makes sense. I will agree with you on that 100%.
And if the governor of New Jersey doesn't have the balls to go during what is a state emergency to a meeting with all of the other mayors and assemblymen and state senators, all of the other people that matter in the state of New Jersey, he can't even show up there for this debriefing. It leads me to believe that he's not worried about it. The president of the United States has not said a damn thing about it. And I know, again, he's inept as all hell. But it leads me to believe that all these people in power, as inept as they are, they're not worried about it. Why aren't they worried about it? It's not a foreign adversary, and they've said that. And I believe that. I don't think that's plausible. I also don't think it's the military. But I do think they know who it could be. And if it is one of these defense contractors, the reason they can't talk about it is because how'd they get all that money to build those things? Exactly. How'd they get the technology to build some of these things?
It's a black project. It's off the books. Exactly.
It's off the books.
And so what I was going to go back to, which is closely related to what we're talking about right now, is more of a question. Yeah. How easy would it be to figure out, let's just say, for example, okay, let's start from square one. All of the government officials, local, state, federal, let's say they genuinely, at the very beginning of this, have no clue what these drones/UAPs are. How easy do you think it would be to find out? Because I think it would be very easy. And I think that for a multitude of reasons. Why? Because we have things that fucking fly, okay? We've got helicopters. We could scramble jets up there in 3 seconds. Guess what we also have? Fucking drones!
Right.
I'm sorry, Pat Callahan. If you're concerned about your police officers and a helicopter... And by the way, I want to point out, I don't want any police officer to be injured by anyone or anything at all whatsoever, right? So I'm not necessarily... I'm not even necessarily blaming you, Pat Callahan. Do you think the state police they don't have drones?
Right.
Why don't we send our own fucking drones up there to park right next to that one and take a good look at it and then follow it to find out where the fuck it's going? So in my opinion, it's very, very easy to find out where they're coming from. Once you see it, you send your own thing up, you follow it to where it's going, boom, done. Case closed. Simple. Solved. Yep. We don't have that right now, which lends credence to they know exactly what the fuck is going on. They're just not telling you or I. That's the only thing that makes sense. Or it is something out of this world. And again, they're just not telling you or I.
It's because maybe that's why they really don't know. That's what those to me are the only two plausible answers.
But here's the thing.
Or Black Project.
Right. But if it is out of this world and they genuinely don't know, why can't they send our own drones up there and take a look at it and follow it?
Maybe they tried. And maybe that's why people are seeing other drones. What I saw, again, I'm not saying that what I saw is anything true or anything like that. It made no noise. A drone that we make,
What you saw,
quadcopters, right? They make a lot of noise. They sound like a swarm of bees. What some people are reporting is that they're hearing whooshing sounds. That's very aligned to being a quadcopter. It's very aligned to being something that's propelling you through the air with some sort of like a fan or a wing mechanism where it's churning air to move itself, right? Like that's the simplest way I could possibly put that. Again, for you aviation experts, I apologize. We are conspiracy realists. We are not
simpletons.
We're simpletons, simple-minded people here. But there are not all of the sightings have been treated equal. And this is what I want to keep emphasizing. And this is why, like, when I see a lot of these newscasts, I know we're not going to be the first people that you're going to select to be on some of them. Don't worry, we forgive you for that, because you're going to look to a lot of these experts. And I think what everyone seems to be glossing over, maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally, is the fact that none of these sightings, or I take that back, not none of them, many of these sightings are very different. They're not all the same. There are very different shapes of these crafts. There's very different sounds being reported. There's different speeds. There's different flight patterns. There's different times of day, and there's different areas that they're going
sizes.
into. Different sizes, particularly as well. So when you factor all of that in, to your point, I think that we have sent something up there, and we have tried to figure it out. And that's the same thing with the helicopter. I find it hard to believe that you have a helicopter tailing a drone and you say, back off. The guy in that helicopter had to be reported. It's not like the guy in the ground says, hey, back off, I don't want you to get hurt. The guy in the helicopter, he has no idea what's going on up there. The guy in the helicopter is talking back to him and saying something. And maybe that was their way to find it out. Maybe some of these other drones that are going up, circling the skies, maybe those are ours, and we're looking for these things. And we're trying to follow them, and we can't. Maybe some of the reasons you're seeing them spin around like this is because we are trying to chase them. We're not sending up planes because as soon as you send up military aircraft, that's when people go crazy. That's when people really start to panic. And so right now, I think it's possible that what they're trying to do is bury it under the rug a little bit, try to figure out what they can get their hand on right now. Baby. There's no burying it now. But if you go the contractor route, the defense contractor, and all of a sudden they say, hey, I want, $200 billion for this technology and it's yours. These are soundless UFO crafts that we reverse engineered. And the government's back and forth. As soon as they buy that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get an announcement. Hey, it's the government. Oh, we got you, tricked you. It was us. It was a military exercise this whole time. Yeah. And they're not going to admit to it. Maybe they're negotiating a deal. Conversely, if it's not that, again, I'm ruling out the idea it's a foreign adversary. It just makes there's no plausibility to that for me. There's where are they bringing them back to, and how can we? I agree, 100%. And wiped out that ship that's sitting off the coast.
Unless it's such advanced technology that we're unaware of right now that we're like, holy shit, they could actually send a drone from another continent, which again is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely, but I digress.
If it was likely, we'd know the tech. It is. What's also very unlikely, and I know people try to talk about this all the time, like, oh, well, we don't know what these other people are up to. That's bullshit. Spies are over there all the time. There's people that are stabbing each other in the back. We know exactly what every other country has. Maybe not to the extent of where they are, but if you go back to our moon landing episode, great episode to watch. We talk about that and the Cold War against Russia. The point was, I guess, spoiler alert, maybe, to summarize, our impression is that we probably didn't land on the moon initially when we said we did. Maybe we landed on there later. The point of that was you knew where Russia was, and Russia sort of knew where you were. And you're in a Cold War, and you're trying to exercise power over the other person, right? So what's the best way to defeat them? Well, you both know how frustrating this problem is on getting a rocket to the moon. How do you crush somebody's morale is to say, well, we just did it. We're there. And knowing, like, just think of the hardest thing you did. Think of like doing a Rubik's Cube. We're doing a Rubik's Cube next to each other, right? And you're cranking through it, and you're looking at this like, holy shit, I'm not even close to finishing it. And like the guy next to you is like, all right, I'm done. Well, why the hell am I going to continue? You just crushed this thing, and I'm cooked, right?
Good point.
And so there's a mindset thing here. You're crushing in that regard. There's spies everywhere in the world. We're very up to date on what these other people are doing. And while they might be moderately ahead of us, the only thing that is going to stop them is if they see one of their adversaries all of a sudden launch this technology. But even still, they'll go and steal it. It's fine. We know what these other countries are capable of. We've talked to people in military intelligence that'll say, we have things that these other countries probably don't know about. Maybe they do, but they don't know the capacity of what's behind it. To have something that can come from another continent and not know about it, to me, would be completely improbable. That's not even a question in my mind.
100%.
So it brings us back to the same points. You either got something that's alien, and I mean that in the most literal sense. It is not from this world, or maybe it is from the underworld, the under oceans. I guess we'll call them anomalous. Or you've got something that's from here, and it's a defense contractor, and probably somewhere else in the world, they might have similar technology. Now, they might not be as advanced. They might have reverse engineered it the same way.
Sure.
But, I mean, if you're listening to this show right now, whether you're listening to our live stream right now, whether you're listening on YouTube and you just click that subscribe button because you love this episode, whether you're listening on Spotify and you're following and leaving us a comment and leaving us 5 stars because you love us there too, you're into conspiracies. And at somewhere along the lines, you must believe in at least one alien story or crash to some possibility, whether it's ancient or modern times. And if that is the case, you must believe that we have at some time acquired some sort of a craft, and we have been working diligently, probably for millennia, to reverse engineer this craft. What's to say that we haven't gotten there yet?
We might just be on the precipice of that, my friend.
It's a big rant.
Might for me, be on the precipice of finding out. What is that?
That was a big rant for me.
That was quite a big rant.
I hope there's a lot of clips I can make out of that. Whew.
You might need a new G&T after that.
I'm almost kicked here.
I am kicked, and it's making me very sad.
So, well, you know what? It is Cocktails and Conspiracies. When we finish the cocktails, it's a good place to wrap up the conspiracy. I hate to bring us home. We've got a lot of traction here, but I hope you guys all that are watching us on X, go right now. That little title at the top says Cocktails and Conspiracy. Just highlight your mouse over that real quick, or a whole long press if you're on your phone. Click that little follow button. That's all. Just do that. And we'll do more of these live streams. This is going to come out actually on our episodes on YouTube. But Tim, Mr. Phillips,
yo,
before we bring it home, I want to know what's next. What happens next? Today is December 11th. As we're recording this. What happens from here on out? Maybe it happens by the time this is posted. I don't know.
It has reached such a fever pitch at this point, at least here in New Jersey. And by the way, this is going on in other states, by the way. I think the last I heard, I think it was 11 states that this is going on. I don't know if it's to the extent and the degree that's happening here in New Jersey. So obviously you and I are a little bit more sensitive to it. Not only is it happening in our state. I mean, I was fishing at Island Beach State Park literally yesterday, and then last night that happened. So I mean, it's literally in our backyard. I mean, you have witnessed odd things in the sky, so it is very near and dear to our hearts right now. So it has become such a phenomenon right now in the media locally here in New Jersey that it can't just silently go into the good night, right? Like it has to come to a head at some point, and the answer needs to be given. I don't think, because the track record from the government tells us that we're probably not going to get the answers that we want. And by that, I don't mean that they're going to come out and that I don't want to be given the answer that I want to get. I'm not saying that they have to come out and go, yup, it's aliens. You were right the whole time. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be that. I feel like we're going to be fed some complete bullshit story that anybody's going to be able to poke a million holes in and go, that's another Chinese spy balloon. Get the fuck out of here. Like, if I had to put my money on it, if I were a betting man, which I am, I think that's what's going to happen. We're eventually going to get some official narrative that we're going to look at and go, nothing adds up. This doesn't make sense. And I think that because, look at all, I mean, we could point to a million different stories that happened, from the dawn of time and go, that just doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's generally what they do. It's probably what's going to happen here.
I can't help but think, do you know those little biodegradable balloon lamps where you light it on fire and shoots up in the sky? And it was trendy for weddings for a little while.
A Chinese lantern?
The Chinese lanterns, yes. Yeah. When you mock them saying, "Oh, it's just another Chinese spy balloon," I can't help but think somebody's saying "Oh yeah, we just had some big wedding." And it was and they were just lighting off Chinese lanterns. They just got caught up in the sky. That would be the official narrative that gets pushed.
Right. We're going to get some kind of bullshit story like that. You know that's going to happen.
I kind of think the opposite. I actually think that it's going to die off let's say it dies off next week, you'll get it trickle in the news and something else will come up. Because I mean, remember, like Trump's inauguration is coming up, right? And so you're going to get a lot of people pivoting to that. There's plenty of other things that pop up, and I think they end up trying to bury it, like a lot of other things that we've seen around here. And if it is, you know, I said before that if it is something that's from a defense contractor, that you might get them saying, oh, you know, it's ours military exercises. And I said that kind of facetiously, but as I think about that, they can do that exact same thing and say it amongst themselves and then just dismiss it like it never happened. And then like in 10 years from now, we'll look back and say, hey, you remember that great episode by the Cocktails and Conspiracy guys, Shane and Tim at youtube.com/@conspiracyrealist. That drone thing, the New Jersey drones, like whatever happened to that? Like that was a funny thing that happened. And, you know, it'll just be another one of those things like lost in infamy that just gets dismissed. Like that's, if we don't get like an alien dropping his ship right outside and walking out and saying, yo, bro, like we're here. That's kind of what I think. And I don't want it to happen, but that's kind of what I see happening. It just, the news cycle moves on.
Yeah. If it stops, if it all goes away tomorrow, or at any point in time it just stops and they go away, then I see that happening. I agree with you, because at that point in time, it stopped. Nobody's concerned about it anymore. 24-hour news cycles, something bigger, better, more interesting comes along, and it's just kind of forgotten about by everybody. So I agree. If it all stops tomorrow, this story goes away. If it doesn't, they're gonna have to give some kind of an answer. At some point, they're gonna, because it's increasing, right? It's increasing. It was initially just Morris County, which I kind of call a little bit of bullshit on, because when they were dubbing them the Morris County drones, people were reporting seeing them down here in Ocean County.
I think
right?
just
that's around the same
concentration was higher up there. Yes.
Right. Exactly. So, but it does seem to be, the activity does seem to be picking up, and it's ramping up. It's not going away. And so if that trajectory continues and that same path, someone's gonna have to give an answer to something. It's gonna be a bullshit one, but someone's gonna have to give an answer.
It'll be a crazy holiday season with all this craziness, all this nonsense going on here.
Yeah. It was Rudolph the whole time.
That's as good a place as any to wrap this up. Everyone, be like our friend Dean Good Game over here. Follow us on X. Click that little follow button right here. You're the only one we're live streaming to. You should kind of get this early. I may have to just straight delay our episode for tomorrow for another week and just publish this tomorrow on our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/@conspiracyrealist. You can follow us at conspiracyrealist.com. That gives you access to all of our social channels. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much everywhere that doesn't want to knock us off yet. We might be knocked off one of them sooner or later. Got a couple strikes in there. Nevertheless, we enjoyed your company. This is a fun topic for us. We don't get too many that are here in our hometown, our home state, really. So it's kind of cool. I think we've only done one other one, right? Like Ong's Hat is really the only other one.
Ong's Hat, that was the only other one.
New Jersey based. So it's kind of cool that something finally happens to us here. And I say that now. Maybe things change if things get a little crazier, but nevertheless, thank you for joining us here. We hope to see you again soon. And if you do encounter any of those drones, as much as I'd love to meet those aliens, probably best to stay away. Till next time, everyone. Enjoy.
Later, Gators.